There was a time when Coca-Cola could literally change your mood in under 60 seconds. Let's just say it had some extra kick that's definitely not in the recipe anymore. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre, mind-blowing, and how was this ever legal stories in product history, the origin of Coca-Cola. Let's set the scene. It's 1886, Atlanta, Georgia. America's just coming out of the Civil War, and everyone's either building businesses or quietly battling addiction. One of those people? A guy named John Stith Pemberton. Pemberton was a pharmacist, a wounded war vet, and a man who, thanks to battlefield injuries, had developed a serious dependency on some heavy-duty medicine. So naturally, he did what any injured, morphine-addicted pharmacist would do. He decided to make a health drink. And by health drink, I mean a carbonated blend of sugar, caffeine, and something else. Something extracted from a certain South American leaf that was all the rage in medical circles. Let's just call it leafy motivation. He mixed it with alcohol and marketed it as French wine coca. A name so fancy, you'd think it came with a top hat. It was pitched as a nerve tonic, a miracle cure for headaches, fatigue, and basically being a sad Victorian. But in 1886, Atlanta banned alcohol, so Pemberton swapped the wine for sugar water, kept the leafy ingredient, and boom, Coca-Cola was born. And yes, that name isn't a coincidence. The coca stood for actual coca leaves, and the cola came from cola nuts, which brought the caffeine. So what exactly was in it? Modern Coca-Cola has around 34 milligrams of caffeine per can. The original? A similar caffeine level, but also around 9 milligrams of an extra plant-based pick-me-up that these days would land you on a government watch list. The early formula had just enough get up and go to make you feel a little sharper, a little perkier, like caffeine's older, more mischievous cousin dropped by for a surprise visit. People loved it. Doctors recommended it. Ads called it the perfect drink for intellectuals, ladies with nervous conditions, and people with excessive brain activity. Meet the real business brain, Asa Candler. Pemberton was a brilliant pharmacist, but a terrible businessman. As his health declined, he started selling off parts of his formula to different people. One of those buyers was Asa Candler, a man who could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. Candler bought full rights to the Coca-Cola formula for about $2,300, which, adjusted for today's money, is around $75,000. That's right. The foundation of a multi-billion-dollar brand was bought for the price of a mid-range SUV. And Candler didn't just sell the drink, he sold the lifestyle. He flooded the country with Coca-Cola signs, soda fountains, newspaper ads, and gave out free drink coupons like candy. And guess what? It worked. People couldn't get enough. He marketed Coca-Cola as a brain tonic and an intellectual beverage, which in 19th century marketing speak basically meant, this makes you feel smart even if you're not. People didn't ask too many questions. The drink tasted good, felt good, and made boring days slightly less boring. Things start to get complicated. By the early 1900s, American attitudes began shifting. That leafy stimulant we mentioned earlier, it started getting some seriously bad press. Media outlets ran stories filled with panic and, sadly, racism-fueled fear-mongering. They published wild claims that urban crime was linked to certain populations using these substances. It was disgusting, inaccurate, and full of moral panic. But it caught fire. Suddenly, the once celebrated ingredient became public enemy number one. And Coca-Cola? Well, it was right in the middle of it. Time for a recipe change. By 1904, the company made a quiet but critical change. They switched from using active coca leaves to spent coca leaves, ones that had the active compounds removed. The flavor stayed. The fun? Not so much. Did they announce this change? Not really. People just started drinking Coke and wondering why it didn't hit quite the same anymore. And here's the kicker. Sales dropped. Yeah, turns out when you take the party out of the punch, people notice. Candler panicked, but he wasn't about to let his golden goose die. he doubled down on sugar, cranked up the caffeine, and went on the biggest marketing spree the world had ever seen. And that's when Coca-Cola transformed, from a brain tonic into the pause that refreshes. Here's a fun twist. Coca-Cola still uses coca leaves to this day. But don't panic, they're fully processed to remove the fun stuff. Only one facility in the US is legally allowed to import and decoconize the leaves, and Coca-Cola gets the flavoring leftovers. The early 1900s brought in a bunch of laws like the Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906, which forced companies to actually say what was in their products. Wild concept, right? Coca-Cola was one of the first big names to adapt. They went clean, leaned into caffeine, and started pushing the refreshing all-American vibe hard. And somehow, despite the sketchy start, it worked. They cleaned up their image, survived public scrutiny, and became a part of daily life across the US and eventually the world. Over the years, it's had its share of challenges, like the whole sugar debate and the new Coke fiasco back in 1985. On top of that, more and more health-conscious folks were trying kombucha and sparkling water, but the real game changer was two words: brand power. They sponsored just about everything: wartime ads, the Olympics, Hollywood, even Santa Claus, literally. Coca-Cola didn't invent Santa's red suit, but their ads made it iconic. That wasn't some ancient tradition. That was marketing. They also diversified: Coke Zero, Diet Coke, experimental flavors you'll only find in Japan, and more. Coca-Cola's explosive success didn't come from pretending it was always squeaky clean. It came from smart marketing, evolving with the times, and distancing itself from its medicinal soda roots. And now, most people have no idea that this fizzy brown liquid, the one sitting in your fridge right now, was once medicine, stimulant, and soda, all in one bottle. Want more insane stories about the brands you thought you knew? Hit that next video. It only gets crazier.